Now I show you where you should exactly enter the markets, and then I will show you how you can actually exit the markets in a profitable way. So basically, what you will need is two weighted moving averages. The first is a 14 period weighted moving average, and the second is a 150 period weighted moving average. There is nothing too complex about this strategy, and I guess you already know what is the first condition for our entry. The first condition is that when the 14 period VMA crosses above the 150 period VMA, it is our first condition, and it is our first buy condition. So based on that, here it exactly happened here. And now we have a second condition that is just a confirmation that I gathered from the algorithm that I optimized the strategy with, and that is that when the crossover happens, the ADX, the 14 period smoothing and 14 period length ADX, has to be above just 20. And fortunately here it is just above 20, so we can actually take the trade. And it is really great that we could take the trade because it turned out to be one of the greatest trades of all time. If you take a look at it, it's a several hundred pips trade, and there were nothing too there weren't too much noise with this, because as you see, the price always bounced back, and we could just enjoy how our trade grows bigger and bigger. That is the greatest feeling of all time. Now let's see what is the exit strategy, because as you know, exit strategy is just as important as the entry strategy, because even if you had a bad entry, you can manage to be profitable. So let's see. Our exit strategy contains three elements. The first condition is the following. We will need two exponential moving averages. It is really important to use exponential moving averages to the exit strategy, because I tested the strategy this way and it is the best combination with the weighted moving averages. We will need a 54 period EMA, and we will need a 120 period EMA. It is really important to use the exact numbers, because I tested the strategy this way, and this way the strategy is actually working, so it is just crucial. Let's see. So here, if you take a look at it, it just happened because our condition is the following. When the smaller EMA crosses below the bigger EMA, in this case the 54 EMA crosses below the 120 EMA, then our first condition is great to close our trade. Now we have two other conditions. The first condition is that 500 minutes has to pass after the entry if we want to close our trade. It means that if you take a trade here and you have to wait 500 minutes before you actually start to look for the dynamic exit, in other words, the crossover condition. So for example, if the 500 minutes hasn't passed yet, but here is a great exit, you can't close the trade because the second condition is just not at the right moment to close the trade. And so you have to wait until the next crossover happens somewhere, and it happened here. It is really important to follow this X minutes parameter, because I tested and coded thousands of indicators Forex robots, C-trader robots, every kind of robots, and I always code this one simple filter and it always adds to the strategy. So you should consider to try it out and not just gambling around. Now we have a safety stop loss that is 95 pips. So when you actually enter the trade, you should create a safety stop loss and the X minutes parameter condition. And these are really important rules that you have to follow if you want to be profitable with this strategy. And I recommend for you to use safety stop loss and X minutes parameter to every strategy you use. Now, this trade was a great one. Here we closed it. And now I show you the sell entry and sell exit parameters by showing you a great sell trade example. Now I show you the sell entry and sell exit rules. Now it is really important to follow all of them, of course, because it is a strategy that I tested heavily, and these parameters are just great for this trading environment. What are the sell entry rules? We will need two weighted moving averages. The first weighted moving average is a 54 one, and the second WMA is a 161. Now, if you take a look at it, I will just make it a little bit wider so you can actually see it. Okay, it's not a little bit wider, it is much more wide because I really want you to see it. Okay, if you take a look at it closer, here the crossover happens because the first condition is that when the smaller VMA crosses below the bigger EMA, that is now the red line, then our first condition is great to go, and based on our first condition we can actually take the trade. And we have, of course, a second condition as well, because our first condition here is just great, and that is when the ADX, that is 14 period, smoothing and 14 length, when it is above 25. So when the VMA cross happens to the downwards direction, the ADX has to be above 25. This is really important for the strategy, so don't forget to actually implement it and follow this condition as well. As you see, it is a really nice trade. We took the trade exactly here. It turned out to be somewhere around 290 pips, and it just went to the exact direction that we wanted. And this VMA strategy is one of my favorite. You can see it why for trend trading. For the exit strategy, we will need two EMAs, exponential moving averages. The first exponential moving average will be the 54 one, and the second will be the 121. 120. And as you will see it, I will show it to you, but first I want it to be a little bit bigger so we can actually see it like this. Now, when the smaller EMA, in this case the 54 one, crosses above the bigger EMA, that is here the red line, and the 120 period EMA, when the cross happens to the upwards direction, then we can close the trade if our other conditions are great as well. So basically we will have the same condition as with the buy exit rule. we will have to wait 500 minutes after the entry of the position so we can start to look for the exit, the dynamic exit. And when a crossover happens before the 500 minutes passed, we just ignore it. We wait for the next crossover when the 500 minutes actually passed. It is a really important rule, and I encourage you to use it every time you take a trade. And you will need, of course, a safety stop loss that is 95 pips as well. And even with a relatively high stop loss like this, the strategy has over 1 to 2 and 1 to 3, between 1 to 2 and 1 to 3 risk to reward ratio, and that is just awesome. We don't need better than that. And so follow all the conditions and be awesome. Now I show you the 99.9% quality tick data backtest. Now here we are in MT4, and I tested this strategy with 99.9% tick data quality backtest. It looks like this, the chart itself, and in my opinion this is a great strategy, and it really catches trades that are worthwhile to trade. And we have an insane risk to reward ratio. It is almost 1 to 4, and of course it varies based on the currency pair that you are using it on. Now I tested it on USD and the major pairs, and our largest profitable trade is also much bigger than our largest loss trade. That is important too. And overall this strategy, in my opinion, is just really worth to trade with, because I take a look at these two numbers and the drawdown, and this is how I calculate my profit ratios with my equations. The win rate is perfect for us. It is much better than if you calculate it in a mathematical way, in a logical way. It is much better than if you would have a 99% win rate and a much lower risk to reward ratio. It is insanely good if we have this risk to reward ratio and 50% win rate. If you calculate it, you will see that it is just insanely more profitable with a scalper with 99% win rate. And if you are interested in these calculations, I am happy to do it for you on this channel. Just write me in the comments, because then I know that you actually want to see that. And I think it would shine a light on these calculations and how simple they are, and how you can calculate the real profitability of a trading robot or a trading strategy. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will show more very good and interesting strategies in the future, because I have plans to do many more and show many more strategies to you. I recommend to trade this strategy on the major and minor currency pairs, and with this strategy I would even recommend the exotic ones as well.